Hi, welcome back to Quad Pod. I'm Al Yates, and I obviously always start with thanks. So thanks to Giles and Andy for they come from a land down under. There wasn't really a kangaroo stood on the broadband, but clearly the technology in Australia is perhaps not so advanced as the United Kingdom, but it did bring a laugh. So this is going to be a short intro. I think that people want to hear from the guests. Now, the next guest is an icon of the 89-90 team. Lots of people asked me to get him on the show. We've actually taken a while to get him on, but he's on. I'm not going to say too much more. I'm just going to say enjoy it. We have listened, and for the older generation of Exeter City fans, this one's for you. Enjoy. Right, welcome back to Quad Pod. This is a bonus episode, and I'm superstitious, so we're missing out a number. I'm hoping it'll be number 14 when it goes out. So the person I'm talking to now, I always do my introductions. This is a really quick one. He's got the patience of a saint, right? Because I will admit on Quad Pod that I've already interviewed this gentleman. Right, and it didn't record properly, and I was beside myself. And he's so nice that a couple of weeks later he just went, "Don't worry about it. I'll do it again happily." Right, so thank you for that. He's followed on from Stevie Flack, right, and I know that he's got a little story on Stevie Flack in terms of the show, but he played for Exeter before. Now, for our younger listeners, I'm going to describe him, and he'll correct me. He's got the energy of one of the most energetic footballers you can imagine. He's from Leytonstone, I believe. He's combating midfielder, but I think when we spoke, he plays a little bit more like Kante, if you can picture that. So our older listeners will certainly know him from his long locks, his tight shorts, right, and his big thighs, right? So you haven't worked it out already by now. It is Danny Bailey. Welcome to Quad Pod. How are you?
Thank you very much, Al. Yeah, I'm very good. Very well. Thank you.
Now, a few little things about him. He is an Exeter City 1989-90 championship medal winner. And I can see the smile on his face about that because he's very happy about that. He has been a cult footballer, and he was also the PFA in the PFA Team of the Year, 1989. So I'm going to ask him to do the talking now. So let's talk about football. Danny, born in Leytonstone, apprentice at AFC Wimbledon. Talk about your early life in football.
Right, okay. Just a few corrections there.
Go on.
I was born in Leyton.
Born in Leyton? Oh, sorry.
Leyton. But they're next to each other, so it's not a problem. And I had done my apprenticeship at Bournemouth, AFC Bournemouth.
That's right, yeah. Did I say Bournemouth? I thought I said Bournemouth.
Said Wimbledon.
Oh, no. Sorry, my apologies. The two AFCs. So AFC Bournemouth, go on. How does a London boy get all the way down to AFC Bournemouth?
So, to recap, my school were very good at football. We produced lots of footballers came out of the school that I went to, which was called Kante School. And we played in the nationals, in the English schools nationals. We got to the final. But on the journey, we played against Dorset and beat them quite well. And I was scouted by a guy called John Shepherd, who works for Bournemouth, and was offered the chance to go there. And after the final, which played at Ellen Road, which we won. We were English schools champions, won 2-0. And the guy came into the change room after and wanted me to go to them. Okay. That gentleman was Billy Bremner, I'd already agreed to go to Bournemouth with Dave Webb,
Right.
and that didn't happen, which is one of those moments in life that you think, what would have happened if I'd gone the other way? But that what it was is what it was, and off I was to Bournemouth.
So, sorry, you'd already made the promise to Bournemouth, had you, at that point?
I had indeed, yeah. And Billy Bremner was manager at Doncaster Rovers, and then a 2 years later, he was manager at Leeds United. And probably the biggest compliment from him would be, he said I played like him, which
Really?
I didn't really know who he was at the time. I was just a young lad, fresh in the game. But then years later, finding out who he was and what he had done, it was a big compliment.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And and that was I think that was 1980, 81. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm starting to get my dates right. Right now,
Yes.
you then had a little bit of a travel around you, and actually, from a career perspective, you've played at a few clubs, which I find fascinating in itself. Right, so you played for Dagenham and Redbridge, Walthamstow, and then you played for Torquay United. Yeah,
I did. Yeah.
So
I made my league debut at 16 at Bournemouth.
right.
I was on England youth trials at 17 at Bournemouth.
Right.
13 captain at Bournemouth at 17, and then I was released on my 18th birthday, which was a bit traumatic. But the journey is the journey. So when I'm now coaching, all these years of telling kids and guys my story, not to give up, believe in yourself, all of these things, what most people who get released go through, I've been through it, and always believed that I was good enough, and eventually got the chance to prove it. So
a bit of a kick in the teeth then, Bournemouth.
Yes, to say the least.
We've all had kicks in the teeth, and well done for you, by the way. So you went to Dagenham first, is that right?
Yeah. I came back to London and then went to Dagenham Redbridge, well, Dagenham at the time they were called, and spent a bit of time there. It was the manager at the time was a guy called Ted Hardy. He was very famous at non-league level, had won the trophy a few times and done a lot. But he believed in older players. I was young at the time. And then he stuck me in the reserves after 2 games in the first team. And then I spent a bit of time there. I was not happy, but I was playing exceptionally well. And the next story to that was I was called in to play a game. I believed I was starting. He told me I was starting. He said, could you just help the lads in the change room? Which I said after he'd said that I weren't playing. I then walked out of that change room and I didn't return there for 25 years later, actually. The next time I went back in there. But my brother was playing football in Cyprus as professional out there.
Right.
And he said, why don't you come out here and play? Which I did. I went out on a plane and went to Cyprus and had a year out there. And it was an experience, yeah.
Bit of sun on your back.
The hair, yes, it was a really good experience, and it was kind of life-changing experience. I spend a lot of my life I've spent in Cyprus, and that was due to going out there. I grew up in Cyprus. I didn't grow up in England, to be honest. When I was 18, I went out there. I grew up over there. I went at 18 and a half, 19, and I came back at 20, 21, and I was a man. I knew a lot, a lot more than what I would have known if I had stayed. So again, not giving up anything. I still believed that I was good enough, and my ambition in life was to be a pro footballer. It wasn't to not play football. It was to be a pro, which everyone says, I want to be a footballer. I wanted to be a pro footballer. And there's some other stories. Go on, you can You can list a few other teams, and I'll tell you.
Well, it's interesting. We'll talk about the Exeter City bit in the middle, but I know that, and I think it shows great tenacity, by the way, and it speaks volumes because you see some footballers and they've played 3 or 4 clubs, right, and they've gone through the process. They've obviously been, I'm not going to say good, but maybe a little bit lucky along the way. But you really did chase your dream. So when did you think your dream was coming? Was it at Torquay United or was it at Exeter?
No, actually, I then I came back and played for a few non-league teams here.
Yeah.
And then I decided to go back to Cyprus. I spent another year out there. Then I came back, and a friend of mine who was managing Wealdstone at the time.
Right. Okay.
We got 6 games left. We're in the conference. We got 6 games left. Do you want to come down? Which I did. Unfortunately we were relegated, but the following season, I played every game, and then we played a game at Wealdstone's old ground, and there was a breakaway from a corner. It was 0-0. I cleared the ball to the winger. I then continued the run. Ball got crossed into the box, 6-yard box, diving header, the only diving header, by the way. Scored. And scored. Came home, went to sleep, didn't sleep very well that night. And then I woke up in the morning. I said to my brother, who'd already, the whole family had always believed in me. And generally, I'm quite a known person in East London. So people always believed in me. And I woke up next day and I said to my brother, I'm too good. I'm too good for this. I'm too good for this division. I'm too good for this team. I need a trial. And he went to school with Steve Neville, again, a product of McKenty School, which Terry Hurlock came out of there. That's like Gary Brooke.
Sorry,
lots of players.
Did you say Steve Neville then?
Steve Neville came out of McKenty School.
Yeah.
So did Terry Hurlock, so did Gary Brooke, so did the list goes on and on and on.
Terry Hurlock was Millwall, wasn't he?
Millwall, right? He's a legend. And Rangers, legend at Rangers, absolute legend. He phoned Steve Neville, and that was on a Monday morning. And at the time, I was working as a van driver, and Steve said to my brother, he said, "Trev, he can come down on Thursday." And then he told me, and I said to him, "Oh, what about work?" And he said, "What do you want to be? Do you want to be a van driver for the rest of your life?" And I looked at him. I said, "Okay." I went, stopped what I was doing, went upstairs, got training kit on, and went running. And then I ran for 3 days, just ran and ran and ran. Right. And I was a man. I knew what I was up against. I knew that nothing could stand in my way, and I was determined to do what I needed to do. And I came down on Thursday, stayed at Steve's house, and took me into training. And the rest. Then we went to Newquay. If you remember, our pre-season tour was Newquay.
Yeah.
And we played a few. I scored 2 at Newquay, which I'm not renowned for scoring, but I could always shoot and stuff. But that wasn't my role in the team. And then we went down to Newquay and we won. We played in the atmosphere game, and then we had a tour down there and we came back. And that year we had some extremely fantastic pre-season games. Yeah. And I played in every game. And again, we played all those games. I didn't miss one day of training because I knew it was. And Terry didn't sign me, first of all. He took 1 month to sign me.
Did he?
Give me a contract. Yeah, he took me 1 year, 1 month to sign a contract. And when he called me in to sign me, he said, "I could have signed you from the first day I saw you." Which, again, anyone that knows me, and obviously some people in Exeter do know me quite well, it didn't faze me and didn't bother me because I wasn't bothered. I knew what I was meant to do, and it's a wonderful thing in life when you know what you're meant to do and you actually do it, you achieve it. So,
and you did achieve a lot, and Terry made a great decision, by the way. So. For the benefit of, again, some of our younger listeners, Terry Cooper played for Leeds and England, left back in the England team, and famously marked Pele in the 1970 World Cup, I think.
Correct.
It's a little bit before my time. I wasn't born then.
Correct.
But he put you in the team, and you scored 2 goals, but you played 64 times, didn't you? During that wonderful, probably not all in that season, the 89-90 season. So what other players, can you remember what other players he signed at the same time?
He signed Kevin Miller. And sorry, I think Kev's coming to presentation.
With Brian, Brian McDermott, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'd told him this, but the first day that Kevin Miller came to the training grounds, 18 years of age, and I was just coming out of the training ground, and before I'd reached the exit, this lad came down the corridor, and he was walking with shoulders up and his head held high, and he walked towards me, and he went, "All right." And I said, "Hi," and walked out. And then that was my first encounter with Kevin Miller.
He's a big lad.
He's a big lad. He was a big lad and very confident, which, we love him for that. The team that we had, Brian McDermott was in there, Clive Whitehead, Scott Hiley, all of these players were, especially Brian. Brian was incredible. What an unbelievable footballer. Unbelievable footballer. The best crosser of the ball you could ever play with, and the nicest guy on the planet.
Amen to that.
And I'm not the first person to say that. And the management, when he took up management, I remember meeting some people and said exactly the same words when they first encountered him. Said he's the nicest man in football, and he is a wonderful man. And the whole team was fantastic. Bits that the public don't really know, that when we used to finish training, we'd go in, shower, change, and then sit in the changing room for maybe an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours after training, talking.
Really? Yeah. Just close knit.
Yeah, everyone was just amazing. Everyone clicked, and everyone would fight for each other.
It's interesting you say about confidence, because and it just shows you how people project themselves. Because Kevin said that when I interviewed him, Kevin Miller, that he was really nervous when he first came down to Exeter. But it just shows you how people are. And I know when you talk about Brian McDermott and some of the things around him, one of the nicest guys in football. Actually, it sounds name dropping. He called me today because of the event we're doing, and we must have spoke for half an hour. It was really quite lovely. So you're there. Results are starting to go really well, right? We're not winning so many games away from home to start off with, right? I don't think we lost a game at home that season.
Correct.
And I think we only drew a handful of games.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
So people were basically turning up at St James Park. After a while, you guys were, and we're all singing names. I think every player in that team had a name, a chant, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
So
they did. Yeah. The most. I'll use words that I often use, like words like beautiful, and wonderful and unbelievable. I'll use these words to describe the supporters, and what they showed me was incredible. Personally, I loved everyone and loved being in and around the club, in and around the city. I used to spend my whole day either in the gym, at Johnny Hawes' gym,
Johnny Hall's Health Club. Wow. Yeah.
or walking down the high street, just seeing people, just being normal.
And it was an incredible buzz around the city, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone was one. It's an incredible time. Incredible moments. Incredible moments in football that you don't often get, and that's what people have to understand. It doesn't happen very often. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
We've not won anything since, have we? We haven't won anything since. We've been promoted, but we've never
won promotion. Oh yeah, we've never won a championship since.
Right.
And there was something particularly special about that. And it's testament to the people that were coming next Friday night. It's in 8 days' time, and every one of them has said, can't wait to see those three together.
Yeah.
So 89-90 season, yeah? When did you think you were going to get promoted? I think it could have been Colchester away, was it?
Well, we played York City away and we lost. I think we lost 3-0 or 4-0. And we'd been on a run. Obviously, our home record was brilliant. Yeah. But our away record was not great. And Terry walked in the change room and he said, it's up to you guys. There isn't a lot I can do about it. You either want it or you don't want it.
Really?
And everyone, and then walked out. He didn't stay in the change room. So this is York away. And everyone kind of looked at each other. We all looked and we had a chat. And I don't think we lost another game after that.
Sorry, and remind me, you said we lost that game. It was after the game.
We lost that game.
So it was after the game. He just went,
after the game, he came in the change room and he said, it's up to you. There's nothing I can do. You either want it or you don't want it. And then walked out the change room. All the lads, we all looked at each other and thought, it is down to us. It's not the manager that can make us fantastic and win games of football. It's down to us. He's done his job. He's got us together.
Yeah.
And after that happened, I don't think we lost another game. I can't remember losing another game. Obviously, we won the league 10 points clear. 5 players in the team of the year, which has only been done, I believe, twice since, and that was Fulham.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who the other one was. Had 5 players from the same team in the team of the year, which is unheard of.
And who were the big characters in the dressing room at that time? Or was it just like everybody? It was hard to say. As in, who was the one that just turned around, come on, lads, what we're doing here?
Oh, Sean Taylor. Sean Taylor was one of those. Kevin Miller would have been one in the background. Clive Whitehead was in there, and it's not me to speak about. It's not really my position to speak about me, but there was.
Come on. I'm guessing that I'll answer for you. I'm guessing you're one of those people as well. Would that be fair to say?
I captained the team later on, but I felt everyone. I felt that there was something that needed to be together, and part of that was my responsibility. So that's what I did. I knitted those bits together and brought people a little bit out of their shell. And Scott Hiley would probably be one of those. I mean, I was with Scott every day, literally every day, and after training as well. I spent a lot of time with Scott, and I again believe that I brought out the talent that was inside that lad, because he was very quiet, very shy lad.
Yeah.
He wasn't, after a year with me, he he was in your face. He was,
So
and what a player, what a player, what a
he
good
was
player.
he was a great player, and
Yeah,
honestly, the whole team was something special. And
yeah,
it must have the scenes to be seen at 5-1 away at Lincoln City on the last game of the season, and I remember standing on a wall with face paint on. I was
yeah,
18, and I counted the 24 coaches that had gone all the way to Lincoln.
yeah. Wow,
And I can pretty much guarantee that, barring going to Wembley
yeah,
and Manchester United and a few other places, it hasn't been done since
yeah.
in that style. So that team, right? And thank you for.
I must mention Darren Rowbottom and Steve Neville, because without Darren's goals, we wouldn't have got anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And I remember the moment when he got injured. Like, I was on the pitch looking at it, and it was almost like in slow motion.
Yeah.
And that lad would have been, if he hadn't have picked up that injury, he would have been an England international. He would have played international football. He was amazing.
Welsh international.
Welsh international, but
Remember he played for Wales, didn't he?
yeah.
I
I mean,
played
that,
for Wales youth. Well, but like
yeah,
say, the injury
he would have gone on. Yeah, he would have had his choices. He could have made a choice on who to play for. Steve Neville was again, an incredible footballer, just clever, smart, intelligent. Both of them were just they were so intelligent.
How many penalties did he win that season?
Yeah, of course. He just knew when you were going to stick your leg out, he would put his leg down, and over he would go, penalty. He never missed.
I've never seen, and I've watched a lot of football, there was nobody better than Steve Neville at drawing the foul.
Yeah, he was. Stephen, what a beautiful, obviously I grew up with Steve, so he was my brother's best mate, and
I never knew
my older brother's best mate. So I was little, I was young, I was little, and I grew up. His house was about 100 meters away from my house, where we grew up in Walthamstow.
Wow.
We all went to the same school. Obviously, they're a lot older than me. Steve and Trevor was a lot older than me, but obviously, people going to a football club from our area was not unusual, but not so common. So Steve was one of those that made it, and he got out.
And basically got you down.
What a fantastic career.
He made a good choice for Exeter.
Yeah.
The only challenge we have, and this, your first period with Exeter, because you played twice, was, I'm going to say, short and sweet, very, very sweet, because that team was, Exeter weren't at the best of health financially, were they? So it's fair to say that team got broken up. Terry Cooper went to Birmingham City, took Scott Hiley with him, Kevin Miller with him, Richard Dryden went, and you went to Reading for £50,000. Is that right?
Yes. Ian Portfield signed me for Reading, and we'd played the start of that season. We played Mansfield away, and we were great. We beat them. We played some beautiful football, and I signed at Christmas for Reading, and Terry asked the question to Ian, when did you know about him? About me? And I'm sitting there, and he said, we've been watching him all season since day one. We've been watching him all season. Really? So that was nice. And when I went to Reading, Michael Gilks was there, and I grew up with Michael Gilks. Keith McPherson was there, who became very, very good. I had friends there. They were good guys. They're really, really great guys.
So you settled quite quickly then?
Very quickly, yeah. I was back at home. It was...
you were commuting out to Reading. I suppose you can,
Yeah. It wasn't that bad. And then obviously the West End nights came in, and it was a good time. when I went there, they'd been losing, and as soon as I went there, we started winning. I think we went eight games unbeaten, and we went from a very low position to quite a modest sort of high position. And then the turning point happened. Then we played Southend away. Michael Gilks got injured, broke his ankle at Southend away. We won. I scored, unbelievably, and we didn't have an outlet. It was like we could win the ball, we could defend, but we just couldn't. Yeah, we just couldn't. But I played with some really good players at Reading, some really good footballers at Reading, and then Ian went to Chelsea. I thought I've got a chance. That never happened.
Chelsea manager, yeah. Chelsea manager. Yeah.
I thought he took Michael Gilks from Reading, and so that was at the turning point. The turning point was Mark McGee. Really, he just was not nice to me. He had no reason not to be. We played, and I don't want to jump off the subject of Exeter City. I'm just telling you.
No. The part of these podcasts is life in football. And what strikes me sometimes is that I'm hearing careers can turn on a sixpence by something. You've just said something there, and Mark McGee. I think he was at Aberdeen, wasn't he? And he made himself famous up there as a player. And for whatever reason, you guys didn't.
He had no managerial experience, and he was taking over a group of men. We were men, there were no kids.
Yeah.
Like everyone was a seasoned pro. Steve Francis made his league debut at 16, I believe, at Chelsea. Steve in goal.
Right.
I went England youth trials, and I met him at Liddyshire at the station, and I didn't know who he was until he turned around with his blazer on, and he had a massive Chelsea badge on it.
Right.
And I said, "What team are you playing for, Steve?" And he said, I said, "You in the youth team, reserve team?" He went, "No," like quite bluntly, and said, "No, I'm first team." And then I met him years later.
Really?
He wasn't very nice to me. He wasn't horrible, but he weren't nice.
Oh, okay.
We walked in the change room at Reading when I first walked into Reading, and I sat in his spot, and he walked in, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he went, "That's my spot." I went, "Oh, sorry, mate." Then I went, "Hold on, mate, who's Steve Francis?" And I told him the story, and he just laughed. We laughed about it.
Right, okay.
How it was. So Mark McGee took over. Everything went not in a very good way.
Was Eamon Dolan there at the time, or was that at Exeter?
No, at Exeter. Yeah.
That was at Exeter.
Yeah.
So go on, and I'm going to get this. Where did you go from Reading? I've gone blank. Did you go back
from Reading? Eamon was playing. There was a testimonial game,
right? And
Alan Ball had taken over at Reading at Exeter.
Exeter, yeah.
And they contacted me and said, "Do you want to go back? Do you, Alan's going to play in his testimony. Do you want to go back?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And then I came back in. We played against West Ham.
Yeah.
When West Ham had every superstar English player playing for them, they were a great team.
Right. And
we played, and I was in the change room before the game, and I hadn't met Alan before. And he said to me, they said, "Danny, this is Alan Ball." And I sat next to him, and I said, "Hello, Alan." And he said, "Hello, son." And then didn't say anything else.
Really?
Not changed. We went out, and I said, "Alan, I'll run around. I'll win the ball for you and just give it to you." And he said to me, "No problem, son."
Right.
And that's exactly what I did.
Okay.
And he was the best player on the pitch at 50 years of age. Never moved out the centre circle. Never gave the ball away. Never got shut down. Never got tackled. And it wasn't as if they weren't trying to do it. They were trying to win the ball from him. But he played one touch.
Yeah.
And he played one touch, spreading the ball everywhere. It was incredible. So that was my introduction to Alan Ball. And it grew from there.
And sorry, just a bit of context for that, because I know that, again, in the unlikely event that people don't know who Alan Ball is, and if you're listening to this and you don't know, you need to know your English history.
Yeah.
He is a 1966 World Cup winner.
Yeah,
youngest. He was the youngest, you're right. And he came and managed Exeter City. And let's just say we were in awe of that caliber of person coming to Exeter.
Yeah.
So sorry. Carry on. Sorry.
I done my A license last year. Year before, actually, I done my A license, and up at St George's Park.
Yeah.
And at St George's Park, they've got pictures of the old England team.
Right.
And I've gone into the room that I was staying in. I've walked into the room, and there's a massive picture of Alan Ball on the wall.
Did they plan that?
No. And at St George's Park, if anyone ever gets the chance to go there and play there and do whatever, train there are more pictures of Alan Ball than any other player at St George's Park. He was people don't know how famous he was, but he was so famous.
I mean, he had an aura, and I'm going to share a story for the podcast. Although Danny knows this because we've spoken about it.
Yeah.
I was at Stockport County away. He gets off the bus, Exeter team coach, with his England blazer on, and he sees me, and he turns around and he said to me, he goes, "You live up north, don't you, lad?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I do. I'm a student." And he goes, "No, I know. I've seen you hanging around." He said, "Do you want a ticket if you're a student?" And I went, "Yeah, that'd be lovely." And he said, "If you're going to Northern Games, come and find me." He said, "I'll give you complimentary tickets." He said, "Because then you can buy a pie and a pint." Yeah, that's the sort of character Alan Ball was, you know.
Yeah. And again, I'll use some words that I use. He's a beautiful person, beautiful human being, beautiful human being. So incredible. What a manager. What a manager.
And in terms of manager, I'm going to pick out a few games, right? And then I'm going to pick out a couple that were not under Alan Ball. But Plymouth away 3-0. Plymouth at home, I think it was 2-0. My memory escapes me.
Yeah.
But it should have been about 5-0 because we had loads of goals disallowed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which one came first? I think the Plymouth home game came first, didn't it? Is that
Plymouth
right?
home game came first, and it was a battle because they had, they were a good team, good players.
Yeah, they were going well, weren't they?
Pros, they had proper professionals in there. They were proper players, but they have to sometimes deal with the fury and the fight and the belief, and that I believe they couldn't deal with.
Yes.
When we went down to Plymouth, again, the team was so structured and so strong in certain areas. I mean, John Hodge was out there, Jeppo up front. We were so strong. We were so strong. They had a lot to deal with, which was a really great. Those are those one-off experiences that people, what you play football for. Those are those moments. It's what you play football for.
And it's in the most iconic retro kit that is still. I should have worn mine today, actually. I apologise. And they're making mugs of it now and hats, which you'll see at James's when you get there. Yeah. So, and Johnny Hodge was famous for that game with 2,500, 3,000 extra fans for winking before he scored, and then doing a forward roll, and then running over to the way end. And I kid you not, he winked. He knew exactly what he was doing. He beat the keeper and then put it in the back of the net.
Fantastic player. Just people didn't expect that from him. They wouldn't. If someone didn't know him, you're playing up against him, you wouldn't think, "Is that little guy over there? What can he do?" And he could do wonders. He was a magician in the wing, absolute magician. A bit of context to that: when we won the game, I went to the Plymouth end and clapped them, and they clapped back.
Did they?
Yeah, they did. And when they talk about the abuse that certain players receive, and racial abuse and stuff that goes on in it, even today, I was speaking to someone recently, and Troy Townsend is a very good friend of mine, who's the head of Kick It Out.
Yeah.
And I would say at Exeter and down in the West Country, I never experienced one day of racism. Not one day. Not one minute. Everyone was wonderful. Everyone.
Joe, that's absolutely great to hear.
Absolutely brilliant they were to me.
And one of the guest presenters on here, Mick, he is going to do a show related to racism, right? But I think it's going to be his early watching of football rather than he's now watches Exeter quite regularly. Yeah. City Mick, he's now a bit of a character. Sleeps in a car to go and watch the Glasgow Rangers derby this season, and then sleeps in his car to go and watch another match, and then drives back down to the West Country. He's a bit of a character. Another game. Were you at this game? 1995, Northampton away. Were you at that game?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
You played for 5 years on your second return.
Yeah.
And your managers. Go through your manager. We'll talk about Alan Paul. Did he go off to Man City at the time? Is that what happened?
Southampton. He went to Southampton.
Oh, that's right. Southampton. He went to Southampton. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, we were with Terry in that first season. We got third round FA Cup, third round League Cup. We played Norwich. We were 11 minutes away from playing Liverpool at home.
Yes.
And they scored from our kickoff, actually, from our scoring, and then us losing the ball. They played through and scored and equalised. Then we went up to Norwich and played that game, and we lost. I think it was 4-0 up there. But
I lost my shoe in the goal celebration of that in the cowshed, and by the time I'd got my shoe off the floor, they'd actually equalised, and Robert Fleck was running over to the. Bearing in mind that the old cowshed was above the pitch, and let's just say he was rubbing mud on his tummy and giving a bit back because he'd been getting a few pelters from Exeter fans that day. I seem to remember.
We were so close, but we outplayed them. We should have scored more goals in that game.
Yes.
If we'd scored one more goal, they would never come back because we were just too good. We really outplayed them. The euphoria of scoring was our downfall. We didn't reset. We didn't pull it together for those 11 minutes. So I was 11 minutes away from having a very wonderful game against Graham Souness. I would have been up against him, which people say, Dan, who's the hardest and and he was, man. I was like, I wouldn't shy away from anyone, and I didn't. I wanted those battles. They were real battles for me.
Yeah, because Bally used to wind you up, I guess, and get you out.
Yeah, we played a game down at Bournemouth, and one of the things I'm sure some of the other players would have that played under Alan would say this. We had a team meeting every morning. Every morning we called a team meeting at 10 o'clock. We'd be in the gym, and he would just talk. And he would tell stories, and you learn so much from that amazing man's life because he had such a life.
Yeah.
And he used to focus most of the game on Saturday would be about me, and the battle against me and their central midfield player, because obviously most games are won and lost in midfield. And one particular game against Bournemouth, a lad I was playing against, he got me to the point of where no one could actually speak to me after the brief, after the meeting, and no one wanted to go near me because I was ready to destroy anyone that came near me. And then when we went down to Bournemouth and played. We won 3-0. Eamon, who was, the most intelligent, the most wonderful human being anyone could ever be now, and have the pleasure to be in his presence.
Yeah.
Scored. I think he scored a hat trick in that game. We won, and the lad that I was up against, like called Shearer, he was a tough guy. He was a very good player. But Alan spoke about him on Friday. He spoke for half an hour about me and him.
Really?
About the battle that we were going to have, and he often said, I'd pay money to watch you and him tomorrow. I'd pay money to watch that tomorrow. The battle between you and him. Half an hour. He went on and on and on and on, and I was just all what was inside of me was rage, just building up and building up. I was ready to.
He sounds like a manager that knows how to get people.
He knows how to. He knew how to get to me, and he knew how to get to me, and what worked, and that day was brilliant. They took centre. I rushed in straight away. They took centre.
Yeah.
I rushed in. As he received the ball, went to pass it, clattered him into him. Then he came into me, and it went on and on and on for 70 minutes. And that year, I had my hair then. I still had hair. And he pulled my hair at about 75 minutes and then turned to me and said, "Tough game this." And I thought, "I got you."
Yeah.
Yeah.
He resorted to pull your long hair at the time. Yeah.
That was good. So they're great memories. Great memories.
And I think your last manager was it Peter Fox? Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Fox. Yes, Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox. What can Danny Bailey say about Mr. Fox? I'd done a lot to help Peter in his career at Exeter. I rallied the fans around and, really spoke highly of him amongst people. He got the job. I was captain. Everything was going well. There's a lot more to the story than this, but my life then was slightly changing. I felt like I was playing the best football of my career. I felt at 30 years of age, I'd seen and done everything, and there was nothing that could surprise me.
No surprises.
No surprises. Nothing was surprising me. Nothing, and no one could surprise me. I experienced, in these years, I'd experienced some very good players and how to deal with them, how not to deal with them, how to get on. There was one game we played Peterborough at home in the cup, and before I wasn't in a good space, wasn't in a good place in my head, in my life, and that was difficult to deal with because we touch on mental health as well. It happens to 9.5 out of 10 footballers suffer from some form of mental health issues.
Yeah.
It's how you deal with it, how you get over it, how you respond to it. Before kickoff, he in the change room, so he's naming the team, and it got to me, got to number 4. He said, Noel Blake said, "You're in this team." I had a little goatee at the time. It was a little lion, really. And he said, "You're in the team by the hair on your chinny chin chin," he said. And then Foxy and him just set out to just destroy me before kickoff, before the game.
Really?
Yeah, you're this, you're that, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're da 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 da. And then we went out. We carried on. I got changed and went out on the pitch. And if anyone can remember me, I used to warm up generally on my own. I would run halfway line and then down to the 18-yard box in a square.
Yeah.
And as I was running, Blakey came out to me and ran with me and said, "Look, we had to do that to show everyone who's in control and in command, and we knew you could take it.
Really?
And I was not having a good. I weren't happy. I was not happy. And a good footballer is a happy footballer, and I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
But that moment, I thought, I can see these people, and they, Blakey was only going by Foxy's orders. And I thought, you just didn't need to do that. It's not the sort of support that I needed. If I needed.
It's interesting, leadership and man management. And I'm 52 now, and I've seen it in industry. There's ways of, working with people. And I was listening to that, the manager in France, so the game's gone straight out of the head. They're getting fined 22 grand every time he plays. And he turned around and said, and you've hit on it under Terry Cooper, it's about keeping people happy, keeping them in their safe space and making them feel comfortable. So that's not a great time. Now,
to be fair, Al, I understood what I was up against, and I knew who these people were. I knew what his Foxy was after that moment. And we lost that game 1-0 to a magnificent goal on the wing. But I played brilliant. And I got man of the match. And after that moment, I didn't think my days were numbered, because I don't think that way. I'm a very positive guy. I didn't think that way. And then what happened at Carlisle away, he didn't play me, and he gave the captaincy to Rico, to John Richardson, which again, Rico is like my boy. He's like my guy. I was the oldest one there. They were like my kids, all of them. I seen him. I watched him grow up and grew him up to a certain extent. So they're all my kids. I don't hold any. I love my boys. I love them all. They're all my guys. They're all my kids, and they're all men with families. Yeah. But I knew that things were changing, and that was the worst bit. Was for me, is I was told, I was called into the office, but I was told, a supporter told me 2 weeks before it happened that they were going to release me, and they didn't allow me the moment to say goodbye to the fans. That I live with, not today, because I've said it before, Al. Yeah. We played, Exeter played Charlton Athletic at Charlton Athletic for, probably 10 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And my brother said to me, "Oh, Exeter are playing at Charlton today." I went, "Oh." He goes, "Do you want to go?" I went, "Yeah, all right, we'll go." And I walked into the stand where the Exeter supporters were, and there was probably 2,000 supporters there. And everyone was singing my name.
Yeah.
Which
I have no doubt.
Yeah. Which those moments are what my ambition was to be a pro footballer. It wasn't to earn millions and do whatever. It was to just fulfill a dream.
And boy, did you fulfill a dream, right? And I could talk about the next parts of your career, and I'm going to rattle them out, right? But what I'd like you to do is just pick out maybe one story from them, right? Because you really went at it, and you must have such a network of knowledge of football. Because I will get the order wrong, right? I think it's 12 clubs. Afterwards, Farnborough Town, Slough, Telford, Forest Green Rovers, Welling, is it? On my notes, Forest Green Rovers, Aylesbury, Grays, Weston-super-Mare, Bath, Weymouth, Chippenham Town. Big shout out to Big Dave, who's a Chippenham Town fan. He was with me on Tuesday night at Brackley Town, Kings Lynn, Stansted, and somewhere else. And you had a little dalliance of being a manager in 2009, 2011.
Okay.
So pick out one of the best bits.
Okay. Assembling the team of management. The management was one of the best bits, because they were all the guys. I was coaching all these players when I started Interwood FC, the senior team. The junior team has been running for over 40 years. So Terry Gibson Senior started it.
Terry Gibson of Wimbledon Junior. Is
right.
that
Terry Gibson, Manchester United, England. His dad called Terry Gibson Senior.
Yeah.
He started the team, and everyone sort of in Walthamstow that could play played for them.
Okay.
So we started that team. So then I started a senior team and they comprised of all the players that I was coaching lots of kids and growing them up, and they were 12, and then they became 16, 17, 18, 19. And I thought, I'm training these guys in a certain way. And we were rolling the ball out way before Man City were rolling the ball out, believe me. I used to tell my goalkeeper, do not kick the ball out. If you kick the ball out, I'll take you off.
You can enjoy watching Exeter on Saturday, by the way.
Yeah, so it was good. So that was a moment. That was really good because I had 8 of them turn pro. We won everything that there was to win. We should have got promoted and gone on, but that didn't happen. But 8 of my players went pro after playing for me.
Wow.
I've changed a lot of lives. I've made a lot of careers. The coaching part of things, a case of the sign of someone, very good at what they do is making something from nothing.
Yes.
And I've taken players from nothing who are now internationals. So,
go on.
Name
a few.
There's a lad at West Ham called Connor Coventry. I started coaching Connor Coventry at 5 years of age. Irish international, Republic of Ireland captain.
Right.
There's another lad called Rio Griffiths. He was at Tottenham.
Yeah.
Rio. Very good player, Rio. And just took a bit of bad advice, really, from some other outside people. I went off to play for Lyon in France for 3 years.
Wow.
And if he had stayed at Tottenham, he would have been in that team. There's another lad called Callum Cisse. He's at Tottenham at the moment, current. Joshua Okocha, who was at West Ham, Josh. He's a fantastic player, Josh. The list goes on and on. I've coached another lad called George Ephraim, Super International.
And that's what you're doing now, isn't it? We're going to jump forward, because everyone wants to know. And by the way, Steve Flack, as you know, has gone back to become a builder, right? And he absolutely loves building, doesn't he? Right?
Yeah.
He likes his bricks.
Should I tell you a story about Mr. Steve, young Steve?
Go on.
So I'm quite. When we were playing, I was close with everyone, but I was extremely close with Steve at one stage. And when we used to go on away trips, me and Flacky used to walk. I don't call him Flacky, I call him Steve. So we used to walk. We used to go for a little walk, pre-match walk, and get there at lunchtime, walk around and talk. And I'd be walking with Steve, and I'd be like, Steve, what course of bricks is that? What brick is that? And Steve would then tell me about the bricks and how much he loved building and laying bricks. And he's just a funny character. A very, very good footballer, a fantastic human being, brilliant for the change room. Brilliant.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he was a great lad. So his love of bricklaying was alongside his love of football, I believe.
And for the benefit of Steve, and if Steve is listening to this, no job too big, no job too small. Based Honiton, I think, East Devon.
100%. He's the king of Honiton.
Yeah. If you want anything doing and you want to talk City, then he's your man.
Yeah, he was a fantastic guy. So when I was at Forest Green, it was an experience similar to Exeter City. That was my other team, really.
Okay.
The Green was brilliant for me, and the lads were fantastic. And
this was pre-money, wasn't it?
This was pre-money, yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I used to. It was 3 hours and 40 minutes away from my house.
Wow.
That was a training night and a home game, and I used to spend probably about hour and 45 of those minutes getting out of London. That's the hardest bit to do. I'd get to Swindon and I'd jump in the car with the lads at Swindon, and the lads. The journey from Swindon to Forest Green was some of the happiest moments in football, which all footballers would know exactly what I mean. You would talk about everything and just have a laugh. You'd just be laughing and talking.
A bit like football fans, yeah?
Yeah, like when you're travelling.
Okay, can I just share a really funny story? Sorry to talk about Forest Green Rollers, right? I went with my mate, Exmouth Nick, who's been on the show, and we met. We were coming from different points, and we met in a lay-by in the middle of the countryside, dropped a car, went to the game, right? And we had it on sat-nav, and we came back and we had this horrible thought on the way back, what if we're going a different route home? And how I found my car that evening. And unfortunately, we were on the same road, because it would have been the case of probably never finding. I would have been calling the police, going, "Can you find this car for us, please?" So
in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere, yes.
In the middle of nowhere. Just in the middle.
So Forest Green was a great time, yeah.
Great time, fantastic lads. You know, brilliant lads. Brilliant lads. We're still in contact. I spoke to one of my good friends. My midfield partner in there was Rob Cook. I spoke to him. Who's currently in the country. He lives in Australia. He's currently in the country, and he's meeting up with Steve Winter, who's at Torquay United, and the lads are still in contact. You know, everyone's still in contact, which is wonderful. That just shows you this wonderful game, you know.
And I'm going to share something here, because and you'll understand, right? And this is, I normally don't give out information about shows coming up, but if I was to say, I have been talking to some people in Australia and I'm aware that Steve Neville's son has had quite a career in football in Australia.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to Steve Neville, but I believe his son is 34 and has been playing left back for, I want to say, Sydney FC.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's bad. Brisbane Roar. Sorry.
Yeah, he's very good player, but it's in his DNA. You know, Steve was great from day one. Day one, when he was young, that's all we used to do as kids. Everyone in our area of Walthamstow used to go to the park, and the big game was on the Sunday, and you had to be a player to play. And I was only little.
And now you're doing exactly the same thing, aren't you? Because I'm preempting something, because we chatted before the show. You have you got a football academy? Is that right?
I've got a small football academy in East London. Yeah, the Bailey Football Academy. My football club, which I'm the chairman of, is called Interwood. So I'm the chairman now, taken over.
Right.
We're just rebuilding the squads at grassroots level, but we are producing footballers. You know.
What age groups do you have? Is it all the way from under 7, under 8?
All the way through. Yeah.
So you're doing the 5-a-side, 7-a-sides, 9-a-sides, all the way through, are you?
Correct. Yeah.
And is that part of the FA? Is it FA chartered or anything like that? Is it part of the FA?
Part standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Affiliation to the FA.
So
we are, and I am, I should say, just giving them the best advice, the best experience that they could possibly have in football.
Well, it sounds like we need to build those links. Now, I'm conscious that we've been talking for an hour. This is going to be a long one. And by the way, thank you so much, because, you've been brilliant, as you know. I've got a couple of things to share about you that I've picked up, and you sent me some lovely pictures, right? You got quite interesting classic cars as well, haven't you? and I believe
I have a beautiful classic car. Yeah,
yeah,
I have a 1970 black red leather interior Triumph Herald 1360 convertible with chromed spoked wheels and a stereo system to die for, and only comes out on sunny days. Only comes out on sunny days. But
like,
no, she's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful car. But
I
go.
wish it was sunny next Friday when you drive down to Exeter. But I got a horrible
I would
feeling.
drive to Exeter actually, but it'd take me about 3 days. But
Yeah.
that wouldn't be quite.
But I'm also aware of a story of you turning up from London, right, at your digs in Exeter, and waking everybody up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, having driven down from London to make everybody look at your car at the time. That's
Okay,
true, isn't it?
So my first car when I was 18 was a Triumph, was my blue Triumph Herald.
Yeah.
It was a blue 1250 convertible Triumph Herald, and
Right.
I had it when I first went to Exeter. I had my blue car down there, and yeah, it was. If I had it now, it would be something to look at. Then it was something to look at.
Yeah.
But not many people would sort of appreciate it. I think it would be more appreciated now. And then stupidly, I got rid of it. But I didn't want to. I just took some bad advice. But I then replaced it with my newer one, which was a 1970 Herald. This one will never go. She is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, really good.
But it is a true story that you woke everybody up, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I had to. Yeah.
Brilliant.
I had to see it to believe it. And I broke down once, driving back to London. Not once, I broke down a number of times. But they're very famous for that, Heralds. And I was going up to London, which would have been a 5-hour journey in the Herald. And I was driving up, I got past Taunton and broke down. And I phoned Richard Dryden. I said, Dryo, I've broken down. I need help. And he drove up in his Mark III Escort, tow rope, towed me all the way back to Exeter.
Did he?
Along the M5, yeah.
Along the M5? Oh, wow. and rumour has it, right, and you don't have to say anything to this one, right, but rumour has it that you almost ran over one of the friends of the show, a guy called Chris Bumble, when he was at Exeter School in a Fiesta, but I don't think you need to say anything to incriminate yourself at that point. Yeah, I'm sure you'll deny that.
I'm far too nice to do that.
Yeah, no, I think so. And talking about nice, do you know what? You've been brilliant. You're coming down on the Friday to see being with friends of Brian McDermott. For the benefit of the show, Brian called me up and said, "Is it all right if Danny Bailey comes?" And I turned around and went, "Oh yeah, right. That's absolutely amazeballs." So. And you're going to be down on the Friday. You go into the Accrington game as well on the Saturday, and you'll be around the club. So if anybody listening to this, right, and if he doesn't know by the time he gets to Saturday, right, he is very much loved, or you are very much loved at Exeter City, Danny. Don't ever forget that, right? And I'm sure a lot of people want to say hi to you as a legend of Exeter City. So you don't need to say anything to that, right?
I would say, again, the people that know me and know me quite well, it doesn't take much to please me. And I never ask for much, really, in return from anyone. I, hand on heart, love everyone down. The place is amazing. And for some strange reason, anyone who's ever played for Exeter City always has that football club in their heart. You know, I speak to Ronnie Jepson quite often, and we mention Exeter every single time. Every time. Yeah, every time. So it's not just the football club, it's the people. You are very, very special and very, very special to me. I love you all. Believe me,
Well,
I can't say it enough. It's a tear in my eye when I say it. And those that know me really well would understand that, yeah, I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to everyone. And I wanted to say how much I loved every moment and love you all.
do you know what? That's lovely. I'm not going to say much more now, right? Come down next weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for doing this again. And actually, when I say again, you came out with different stories as well. So you've been brilliant. We've loved having you on Quad Pod. I can't wait to see you in the flesh next week. All right. Thank you for your time, Danny.
My pleasure.
Very much appreciated.
Thanks, Al. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Here we go. End of the show. Danny Bailey. I love talking to Danny Bailey. He's got so much passion. He is, I can tell, one of the main fulcrum players of the 89-90 championship winning team. The stories he's told, the love and affection he's got for Exeter City. And interestingly, he felt he never got to say goodbye at the end, which shows you a little bit of the brutality of football and not being on the retain list. So we're going to show him at the weekend what we thought of him. And he's popping down to the evening with Brian McDermott and obviously now friends. It's going to be really great to see him. And I also know that there's quite a few Exeter fans who are looking particularly forward to seeing Danny Bailey. So, Danny, thank you for coming on the show. You were amazing. Now, a little bit on the trust. I actually have a confession. I missed a trust meeting in a recent week, and that's partly because they put it on to a Tuesday at short notice, and I had plans to go and see a ground hopping game, Brackley Town versus Kings Lynn, so I missed that. I look forward to seeing the minutes. I'm sure it's a good one. Accrington, Stanley, you are next, as they say. Looking forward to that one. Home game, tickets are selling well, and I'll be in hospitality with Brian McDermott and Danny Bailey and a few others. If you see us, please come and say hello to them. Tell them what you really think of them. All you older City fans really will appreciate them. It was the best defensive midfielder we probably had for a long time, and also the best cross-road ball that we had for a long time. So hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks, Danny, and on to the next show. Take care.